the dice. This is it. High fly ball into right
Welcome to Fed Up, the number one podcast where you can get up on all things Federal League. I am your host, Josh Stoll. Another fantastic week of baseball in the books for the Federal League. We also have an amazing episode coming up for you today. We're going to take in some scores and highlights from around the league. We are going to give you our updated Fed Up power rankings, and then we have a very special guest, Mr. Matt Meyer, will join the podcast. So let's take in some scores and highlights from around the league. We'll start in the American League North, where the Minoka Grays traveled to River Falls to take on the St. Croix Valley Silverbacks. It's incredible that the benches didn't clear in this one, as there was 8 hit batters. Other highlights include Jeff Hoyer with a multi-hit game again for the Grays. Bub Lovis went 6 strong to get the win. Keegan Byrne went 2 for 2 for the Silverbacks, but the Grays do outlast the Silverbacks 7-2 in that one. Minoka had another game, this time against Capital City, taking on in already the second matchup of the season for these two teams. This one was not close. Minoka all over Capital City, 16-1. But things weren't all bad for Capital City. They took on the Red West Legends. They won that game 19-7. In the American League East, the East Metro Mammoth were in action. They also took on the St. Croix Valley Silverbacks in River Falls. This game was close for a long time. The Mammoth scored 3 in the top of the first. The Silverbacks answered with 1 in the bottom. But it stayed that way until the 6th inning when the Mammoth threw up a 4 spot. That was the final, 7-1. Matt Grill goes 6 innings in this one to get the win for the Mammoth. River Falls Groupers also took on the St. Anthony Norsemen up at Palm Field. The Groupers used 3 different pitchers to go ahead and sneak by the Norsemen at Palm Field. Meyer and Marks do combine in that one to help the Groupers to a solid victory. They beat the Norsemen 5-2. The South Metro Saints didn't need any late inning magic to beat the St. Paul Senators as they moved to 3-0. The final from this one was 12-2. Run rule being stretched to the limit in the American League West. The Rockford Rail Splitters dimed the Metro Loons 12-2. Chaska Voyagers won the Battle of Chaska as they beat the Diamonds at Chaska Athletic Park 12-2. And the Newmarket Northerns blanked the Eden Prairie Flyers 10-0. Over in the American League South, Lakeville all over the Milltown Outlaws, 12-0. Matt Meyer goes 3 innings in this one, does earn the victory. The Burnsville Bulldogs find themselves in the win column for the first time this season as they beat the Northfield Millers 4-1. Great news for the Bulldogs as Trent Larson looked really solid in that one. The Webster Wildcats beat the St. Paul Senators 8-6. Milltown did have a victory last week as they took on the Lonsdale Jokers and were able to throw up 13 against the Jokers, and they win that game 13-3. Another great pitchers duel for the Rosemount Pipers. They took on the Hastings Hurricanes, and if it's a pitchers duel featuring Rosemount, you can guess that Cliff Christopherson was going, and he was indeed. He throws an absolute gem, and the Pipers do outlast Pfeffer and the Hurricanes 4-2. Notable scores in the National League West. The Snappers were busy as they took on the Minnetonka Mustangs at Big Willow. The Snappers won that game 6-3. The Snappers also in action Tuesday night as they took on the Tonka Bay Lakers in their opening game. And the Tonka Bay Lakers were trailing in that one 6-0, but come from behind and win that game 13-7. Minnetonka Saints had a couple of games last week. They beat the Metro Loons 5-4, but they were upset and shocked by the Minnetonka Mustangs in extra innings as the Mustangs win that game 5-4. Counting on our scoreboard wrap-up, we have the National League South, Elko all over Vesely 12-1, and Lakeville all over Vesely as well, 10-0. Now that we've concluded our scoreboard wrap-up, it's time to do our official Fed Up Power Rankings. Not much has changed this week, but we do get a little shake-up at the 10 spot. The Minnetonka Saints with their loss to the Mustangs are out, but we do have a one-loss team making their first appearance in the power rankings. At number 10, we've got the Rosemount Pipers. Team has come storming back from their opening game loss to the Apple Valley A's. They are now 3-1 and certainly on a great trajectory in the National League East. At the 9 spot, we still have the Waconia Islanders yet to make their debut. 0-0. They do play their first game on Sunday, May 19th. Take on the Elko Chuggers at Lions Field. Islanders have a second game next week as well, as they will take on the Minnetonka Saints on Tuesday night. For Rail Splitters in action once again, they moved to 2-0 and they will stay in our 8th spot. The Tonka Bay Lakers at number 7. They do get their first win in their first attempt in the Federal League, coming from behind against the TC Snappers. In the 6th spot, still the South Metro Saints. They moved to 3-0 with an impressive win against the St. Paul Senators, but they've got a big week ahead of them, taking on Minoka, as well as a doubleheader in River Falls, taking on the Groupers and the Silverbacks. Number 5 are those Groupers. We've got a busy week ahead of them as they will host the RC Rockets, travel to St. Michael to take on the Angels, and then host the South Metro Saints in the front end of that doubleheader. The 4th spot are the Newmarket Northerns. They're already 3-0 in the young season. They have a couple road games coming up where they will travel to Vesely and they will travel to Trendon Memorial Park to take on the Lonsdale Jokers. 2 games in the next week for the Northerns. They will try and move to 5-0. They're in our 4 spot. At the 3 is the Lakeville Lobos. Get an impressive pitching performance out of newcomer Austin Mitchell as he goes 5 innings, allowing just 1 hit and no runs against the Vesely Vulcans. Struck out 9 in that effort, walking just 1. Austin Mitchell also went 3 for 3 with 3 RBI in the game. Seems like the rich get richer in Lakeville as they find another key contributor on the mound. At number 2, the East Metro Mammoth. They're doing what the Mammoth do, off to a 2-0 start in the young season. Grill looks good. And at number 1, still the Minoka Grays. They are 3-0 and certainly looking like a team who is on a mission to repeat. One of my favorite things about doing this podcast has been just getting to know some of the members in our league a little bit better, hearing some of their stories, their experiences. We've got some guys who've done some really cool things in and around the game of baseball. Matt Meyer is certainly no exception to that. I sat down with him earlier this week in a pre-recorded interview. I hope you enjoy it. It is my distinct honor to welcome Matt Meyer to the podcast. Matt, welcome to Fed Up.
Thanks for having me, Josh. I appreciate it.
So you're a Rochester kid. Tell us, did you always just play baseball growing up? Or are you one of these multi-sport athletes that seem to be pretty good at whatever they tried?
So multi-sport is a stretch. I played other sports. I don't know if I was an athlete, but I played football up until my sophomore year, and I realized I was slow and short, and I wasn't gonna get a Division I offer doing anything on the football field other than hurt myself. And then basketball I tried, and again, just not. I was more of a defensive specialist, but I figured I started chucking the baseball relatively hard, and I'm like, this is probably the spot to be. So I played up until my sophomore year football, and then I shut it down, and then I played up to my freshman year basketball and shut it down. I'm like, well, got one avenue to make it here, and if I don't make it here, I'll probably won't make it anywywhere. So I think I made the right choice probably, but I don't know, one level away to being a big leaguer.
Yeah, I think that vetted itself out pretty well for you. I see from Rochester you went to Boston College.
Yep.
When did you really start to think that a major league career might be something that is in the cards for you?
So I get, that's a funny question. When I played in high school, I always thought like I'm just gonna keep playing. There was never like, oh, I'll be done eventually. It was just I'll keep playing, and I didn't ever see like an end date or stop times. I had like high school coaches like, yeah, you're probably a Division II guy, maybe a Division III guy. I was like, okay, sounds good. I'll just keep playing. And my freshman year, I gained like 30 pounds and grew like 3 inches from like 6'1" to 6'4", and went from like 180 to 210. And my fastball was like 84, 86 in high school. And by the time I got to finish with my freshman year at BC, it was up to 94, 95, I think. So it was low nines up to mid. And I was like, okay, left-handed. I still only threw 9 innings my freshman year, so I still wasn't like contributing. But God, I got to the weight room, and at BC, I'm like, I am like far, far behind these guys. Like these are grown men, and I'm like a twig. So the weight room was probably the biggest, contributing factor to that. I took it pretty seriously, and it showed on the mound. I got to throw probably, I think I had the second most innings as a freshman, and then kind of progressed into a bigger role my sophomore and junior seasons, which was huge. So it was a eye-opening experience going to that weight room the first time. I was in some trouble walking in there.
Do you have a coach or an influence along the way, that somebody that really kind of helped get you where you are? Is there one person that sticks out in your mind?
There was a lot of coaches that were really great. They were really positive, encouraging. High school coaches, college coaches, but there was a minor league coach, Kenny Rowe. I'd say there's two, Kenny Rowe and Greg Hibbard. Like, we're both guys that were super positive. My mechanics are a little bit funky. If you've ever seen me throw, it's hard to like. They say when I got drafted, like, Kenny Rowe's like, you got drafted for a reason. Like, we're not here to change you. We're not here to make you different. Like, you're good enough to play at the big leagues now. Just being consistent. So I was like, okay, that's good advice. That's helpful. So, the reinforcement of, hey, you're good enough. Just be more consistent was huge. That kind of mental, push was helpful. And then Greg Hibbert was just a super positive. He's my high A coach with the Indians in Kinston, and he was, super positive, and we'd work on PFPs. I think PFPs were probably my weakest part of my game. I would like, not the yips, but like, you kind of like short arm and kind of flip it over there. And he's like, we're going to go out. Let's go. Like, you're a big leaguer if you get this done. I was like, all right. So we did it like a couple times a week, and super helpful, super great guy. And, those two coaches are probably a couple of my favorites in the minor league systems, which is great. So
you went to BC, and you were taken by the Cleveland Indians in the 15th round. You were picked 461 overall in the 2016 MLB draft. What was that day like for you?
It was actually kind of pissed me off. So, like when you're when you're kind of going through the draft process, and you're getting scouts that are, you're going to get drafted in this round. You're not going to go later than this. And, the Braves scouts, like, you're not going to be later than a 5th round pick. I was like, sweet, that's awesome. And, I'm waiting for them to call and nothing. I'm like, well, what the hell? And, the Astros were interested, and the Cardinals called me in like the 7th round. Like, you're going to get drafted in the 8th round. I was like, sweet. And then 8th round goes by, and then I'm like, I'm seeing guys I played with in Alaska and Cape Cod and the Northwoods League get drafted, and guys I played against in college. I'm like, what? Like, this is weird. You know what I mean? Like, I went to try out with the Mets out in old Shea Stadium, and I thought I did well. I thought I was throwing hard, and to see all these guys, I'm like, and it was really frustrating. Like, obviously, if you're not the first overall pick, you're like, you think you're the best player, and so to see these guys get picked up, and I'm like, kind of put your little chip on your shoulder, because then you play against some minors, like, oh, you're, and then even like you go to the same affiliate, you got guys from your team that are first, second, third, fourth, 5th round picks. I'm like, man, you got drafted ahead of me. Like, who the hell is your scout? Like, and then who'd they pay money to get this guy drafted ahead of me? So there's a lot of like, not like frustrated. I was obviously happy to get drafted. I don't want to take that away. It was a very like exciting, fun day, but I still like remember I was like pissed off after getting drafted. I'm like, 15th round. Like, there's no way I'm like the 461st best player in the country. That sucks. There's no way. So it was good, but at the same time, like, a little bit ornery that day too.
Sure, yeah, I can. Well, I can't relate with those feelings, but did that motivate you? In the years,
for sure,
starting off in.
Absolutely. It's funny because the guy we drafted first, I think our first pick of the Indians pick was Dave Huff, and then I think we had like Stephen Wright, and I think Josh Rodriguez and Adam Davis, and I think Huff made it to the big leagues. Stephen Wright was an all-star as a knuckleballer. But I'm looking at, I'm like, stuff-wise, I'm like, my stuff's as good as your stuff. I know, like, you might have better numbers, but like stuff-wise was, I thought I was comparable to, our top guys. I'm like, okay, they're making $5,750,000 and I'm getting paid, peanuts comparatively. But, there's guys drafted after me that were just like, remember the name Josh Tomlin? I don't know if that name sounds familiar with, I played with the Indians for the longest time, but I'm like, he was a 19th rounder out of Texas Tech. And I was like, that dude, like, his stuff was, 88 to 92. He'd spot up everything, but he was a bulldog. I'm like, I'd take that guy on the mound over any of the guys we drafted at any point. He was just a bulldog. I love watching him pitch, and just a great dude. Just a little Texan cowboy. It was awesome.
You had a chance to play with a number of notable major leaguers. On August 20th, 2010, you were assigned to the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes. who I'm digging into a little bit, and I'm loving that they play the games at the Epicenter. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. I'm gonna have to give myself a Quakes hat,
You
but
got to see the hat. It has like a big,
I,
jagged, it was pretty good. I'm like, man, what the hell kind of uniforms were these?
like a
They had
little
like
fault
the
line or
Q, like the
something.
fault line on your bill. I was like, okay, pretty gimmicky. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. You had a chance to play with a young outfielder in the Angels system, pretty talented young player, Mike Trout.
He's
Tell us
okay.
about
Yeah,
that
he's all right.
experience.
So, it's funny. I walked in I got signed out of the American Association of the Saints. I think I threw like 21 scoreless when you struck out 42, and they're like the manager Sam's like you're Saint or the Twins, the Red Sox, and the Angels called. Who do you want to sign with? I said whoever offers a contract first. And
Yeah.
he's like, all right, you're going to California tomorrow. I was like, all right, sounds great. So I walked in to the clubhouse and Garrett Richards was there, and we became good buddies pretty quickly. But he was a younger guy out of Oklahoma, and he's like, "Dude, I thought you were a coach or a rover, like walking in." I'm like, "I didn't know you." I was like, "Cause I was like 27 at the time. These guys were like
Yeah.
19, 20, 21." I'm like,
hmm
"No, I'm like a guy on the team now." I'm like, "They're like, what the hell?" I was like, "Man, that's a nice welcome." But yeah, so I saw Trout play. He was 19 at the time, and at the time he wasn't like a big power hitter. He was really fast. Like he would turn like routine 6-hole or 4-hole ground balls, and he would leg out a double somehow. I'm like, how? Like what? Like that's not possible. Like what are you doing? But he was so quick, and he would just play the game so hard. I'm like, man, this kid is like every play, like even a routine ground ball to short, like he'd be like, and I'd be bang bang plays. I'm like he makes the infielders rush, they make a mistake, and he's on first base. So he would just play the game like with reckless abandon. I loved watching him play. He was just a fun kid to be around. He was super quiet, like was just kind of kept to himself. You never see him in the headlines for doing anything, bad. He's married to his high school sweetheart. He likes to golf, he likes to play baseball, and he likes the weather. Like he's a big weather guy. I don't know. It's just like he was very low key. But man, he's had some juice in his bat now, and he played. I mean, outfield. When I looked up, so I was in big league camp with the Angels, and I looked up. I think I had like Torii Hunter in left. I got Pete Borges in center, and like Mike Trout in right. I'm like, just get a fly ball. Like someone's tracking it down. You know what I mean? Like just keep it in the
Right.
yard, and
That's
someone's
not
running it
dropping
down. I'm
anywhere.
like, yeah. I was like, we're good here. Like just keep it in the yard. So having like him as an outfielder at 19 years old, I'm like, this guy's incredible. So and he's just gotten better. Unfortunate with the injuries and stuff, but God plays the game hard, and unfortunately the injuries part of the game when you play 100% like that. But it's fun to watch.
Did you know kind of at the time that this guy is going to be something pretty special, or
You
is
know,
it too early to tell at that point?
it's funny, yeah, because I got that question before. I'm like, I thought he was good. I didn't ever like recognize the power potential that he had. I guess his swing is super compact, short.
Yeah.
Great bat to ball, but I just didn't realize that he was gonna have that like the juice for like 40 to 50 a year. I thought he was gonna be like hitting 315 to 330 and stealing 50 bags. You know what I mean? Being like a great defensive center
Yeah.
fielder. But the power came, and I mean the guy consistently puts up numbers when he's healthy. So I hope that meniscus injury heals up quick and he can be back out there, ASAP, because man, the Angels need him out there, and he's just, one of the faces of baseball that just, makes it fun to watch. So
Yeah, couldn't agree more. You ended up having a 9-year career in the minors, and anybody else along that journey that really had an impact on you, or you think back and you think, that was kind of a special opportunity to play with this player, or this funny moment in the dugout. Talk to me a little bit about just what sticks out over that course of that time of your life.
So, there was a time. So I was in the locker room with Torii Hunter, and I'd grown up being a Twins fan and watching him play, and so I sat him. He was in the training room, and he was like, icing his wrist. I think he got hit by a pitch or kind of got jammed up or something, and I was like, just wanted to introduce myself. I'm a huge fan. Grew up watching him play with the Twins in the Metrodome. He goes, sit down, Rook, and so he sat there and had like a 20-minute conversation with me. Just, how you see him on TV is exactly how he is in person. Like he's just like a genuinely great dude. Like, it's like a Twins, fanboy growing up and seeing one of the best Twins of all time, in my opinion, one of my favorites. It's like just a personality of the game. And to have him be like as genuine as he is on TV as is in person to somebody he has no idea. I mean, just, I'm number 87 in minor league camp.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who I am. You know what I mean? So for him to sit down and he told me, like, sure, you've heard the Harmon Killebrew, how he taught guys to teach, sign an autograph where you want it to be legible 20
Right.
years from now so somebody can read it. He told me that whole story, and, his autograph is very legible. You see all the letters and see his number. I'm like, man, what a cool story. The other one, I got to sit in the bullpen with LaTroy Hawkins when he was in rehab assignment in Salt Lake. And, I was at a Twins game, I don't know, a number of years ago, and he came like unglued off the bench. Like Joe West, I think, was the umpire in the field, and he came screaming off the bullpen bench. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And so I asked him, I go, hey, LaTroy, I don't know if you remember this. I don't know if, this is something that, rings a bell, but, do you remember what happened? The umpire said something in the dugout or the bullpen. He came flying off the bench, and he was cracked. I goes, oh my God, I do remember that. I don't know I forget what he said, but it's like just hysterical. I'm like, man, that's I was at the game watching. I was like 12 rows up behind the bullpen watching you freak out.
Love it.
Yeah, LaTroy was another guy who was just a genuinely, like, I think he could play in our league. He could probably sling in our league a little bit. I think he's like, 40, mid-upper 40s. That dude took care of himself better than anybody. He still threw like mid-nines when I was playing. I'm like, Jesus. He's like 37 when I was playing with him. Just still at it. It's impressive.
You played a couple years with the Saints prior to their affiliation with the Twins at AAA. But tell us a little bit about that experience. Did you have a chance to run into Bill Murray at all?
You know what? I ran into Bill Murray twice. So once in Salt Lake, and then the very last game at the old, what's the stadium? I forget the name of it. But so he was taking tickets on the very last game of the season down on the Energy Park Drive, and so everyone was kind of crowding around him. I just kind of let him do his thing. He's such a nice guy, but yeah, he was a riot. Like, again, just another genuinely good guy. Like, was taking tickets, goofing around with fans, like goofing around with players. So that was pretty fun. But the Saints, I liked. The Saints it's strictly about winning games, and it's unfortunate. Like a lot of guys, you're playing to get picked up essentially in indie ball. So when I got released, I got released by the Cardinals in 2010. And I was like, that's probably the curtains on the career. Like, it's hard to get picked up at indie ball. You really got to put up numbers. So, I was like, whatever, I'm just going to go. My brother was he was at University of Minnesota finishing school. And so you should play for the Saints. I was like, I don't know if I could just like show up and play for the Saints. You probably need to get like invited, or, you know what I mean? So I went and he sent an email to George Samus. And he's like, yeah, have him come down and throw a bullpen. So I threw a bullpen, and I was like, whatever. I was like kind of just checked out. Like, I was like, nah, I don't know what level this is. I have no idea like what indie ball is about. I had like walked in completely blind. And so I threw a bullpen, I signed, and I was closing like the next night. And I think I walked the very first hitter, and George gets real animated. Like, he gets really stressed. And he's looking at like a guy who was vouching for me because I played with a couple of guys on the team prior. And he's looking down there like, what the hell? This guy sucks. You know what I mean? And then I think I went on to strike out like the next 12 or 15 guys I faced. Like,
all right, we'll invite him back. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty high volume amount of guys, and I quickly became the closer. And like I said, I think I threw 21. I think I set a record for a scoreless inning streak. And then Caleb Thielbar, I think, broke it like the next year or the following year. I'm like, thanks, Caleb. You gave me one or two good years at least. I appreciate you. So, but it was fun. It's you're driving on some buses to some towns you probably don't want to be in, but it's still baseball. It's actually you don't get a lot, like, guys don't give it a lot of credit just because, like, well, it's indie ball, but it's a lot of guys that got released out of AA and high A and some college kids, but the level was still good. There's still good arms, guys that are pumping low to mid nines, and guys who can swing it and just wait for the right opportunity. And I think we had a couple guys picked up. Just about every season there was somebody getting picked up out of the league to an affiliated club. So, the opportunities are there. It's just capitalizing and, taking it seriously and kind of taking care of yourself, which is super important. In indie ball, it's hard to do because pay is low, and you're riding on a bus in the middle of nowhere, and you got to find time to lift and have good nutrition and take care of your arm and not drink too many beers. You got to struggle.
Yeah. And then following your time with the Saints, you had an injury that almost stopped your career. Tell us a little bit about what happened there and what was going through your mind.
Yeah, so 2016, I was pitching for the Royals, just doing some town ball, having some fun, kind of career. The competitive professional career was kind of at a standstill, and I wanted to keep playing, and was throwing, and my arm kind of felt cold, and I was kind of just it felt funny, like I was really tired. I was running on a treadmill, and kind of had to brace my arm against my body because I like couldn't swing it. It was just felt really just weird. And the cool touching kind of threw me off a little bit. And I was up at at a surgery for work, and I was talking to a PA, and he asked, he's like, I said, Connor, was my arm like I can't feel like, or my arm's kind of cold, kind of feels tired. What do you think? And he goes, well, let me feel your pulse, your radial pulse. And so, all right. And he's like, well, you don't have a radial pulse. I was like, is that bad? Should I is that an issue? He goes, go to the emergency room. I was like, well, like, let me finish the day at work and then I'll go. And he's like, fine.
Nope.
And so, like I said, so I drove home from Cannon Falls and zipped over to the emergency room at Mayo Clinic. And they're like, yeah, you have a significant blood clot in your brachial artery and you're not getting like significant blood flow to your left arm. I was like, okay. And like, you're going into surgery like immediately. I was like, oh, okay. And they're like, there's a small chance, but there is a chance that if this clot breaks off in your arm, you lose your arm. I'm like, well, that's not great.
Good.
So I was like, oh, that was like the last thing they tell you very walking. I'm like, oh, that's not the news I wanted to hear. So, I woke up and I'm like, all right, it's there. We got an arm. And, but the doctor, the surgeon, she was like, your baseball career is over. That's potentially happening again if you keep throwing. And, so I was like, all right, it's kind of at peace with the career being done, and with kind of where my career had taken me, it was okay. I was okay with it. And like 6 or 7 months later, I got an email from that same surgeon, and she was like, well, we kind of figured out the root cause of what was causing the clots. It's called quadrilateral space syndrome, and I'd never heard of it. You hear like thoracic outlet, but the quadrilateral space syndrome was like a new thing. They said it happens in volleyball a lot and baseball. It's like, huh.
Overhead
So I guess not a lot. So it's kind of rarity. They're like you're the 10th or 11th case at Mayo Clinic we've seen. So that's not great odds. I don't like that, but whatever. And so they went in and tied off the posterior circumflex humeral artery. They tied off in both arms, and the surgeon was like, "You can keep throwing and keep lifting now, and kind of doing whatever you want to do. You should be life back to normal." So it's kind of a little bit of a resurgence, which was fun, and gave me another like a little second chance. Just playing town ball, I'm like, I told my wife, she's like, are you really like going to get surgery to play town ball? I'm like, I want to get surgery to like be able to do things. I want to lift and I want to be able to throw, and I don't want to clip off my entirety of my like everything just to not have surgery. So got it done, and every year now it's just one more year. So
Well, the Royals were certainly glad that you had that done in 2022 because you had a pretty magical season. You guys won the championship. You won just about every award, every honor there was. Tell our listeners a little bit about what that season meant to you and what were some of the highlights for you.
So that was probably, and it's funny, I've played so many seasons of baseball, and I'd never won a championship in my entire life, in the minor leagues, at college, even high school, youth ball, like finished second multiple times, runners up a lot. And to finally like break through at 37 years old, and I'm like, it should be probably done by now, but I'm like, we had a good team. Like it was a complete team effort, but God, that was a magical, fun run to, if that was probably I don't know what the last times I'm going to throw with my arm acting up, but it was so much fun to play, especially being in Faribault, Dundas, and me feel like those teams we play. I think we won the championship in Dundas, and it's like, we'd put together a roster over the course of like 6 or 7 years where we were taking our lumps pretty hard. Like we were taking some beatings pretty aggressively, and everyone started to kind of buy into, we'd stick around after the game and kill a cooler of beer, and just it was more of like kind of bonded a little bit better, and the success helps. Obviously, I think we were like 32-8 as a team, and up and down the lineup we had guys that would sacrifice an at bat to move a runner over, get a runner in, and pitchers were eating innings when they can, and so it was honestly like to have it all like finishing a walk off was about as perfect
And
as
extras, right?
asked for. And and extras, and what's crazy is like the poor kid that made the error. It was like a 2-base error. I was like, that was tough, but appreciate it. I'll take that. I'll take it win anyway. We can get it. I was thinking I was running on fumes. I think I thrown out CG on Friday night, and then Mateo threw CG against Measville Saturday, and then I came back on 1 day rest and threw like 4 2/3. I'm like, boy, I don't know. My old ass is
I thought
running on fumes. You were trying to get through it, just score a run, please, fellas. So it was honestly that was probably one of the most fun seasons I've ever been a part of.
So tell us a little bit how you got linked up with Torii and the Lakeville Lobos.
So there's this group on Facebook. There's like it's a minor league / major league baseball, like current / retired players. There's like 13,000 people in this group, like just tons of dudes. And Joe Witt was in the
Yep.
group, and he posted a picture of like Fedley. I think he posted a picture of him after a game. Like it said like Lakeville and Elko, or I don't even know what the picture was. I'm like, what league is this? I've never seen this before. Like it's interesting. So I texted her. I shot Joe Witt a message, and he's like, yeah, you should come play for us. And I was like, oh, what's it all about? So I basically came up for a game and met all the guys, and Tori's like, you want to hit? And I was like, I just really wanted to hit, like, because the Royals won't let me hit. I just come and hit BP. So they're like, you should come hit and pitch if you can. I was like, all right, sounds good. So I got to swing it a little bit, and I threw for a little bit for them, and they're like, well, yeah, you should definitely be on the team. Like, why don't you come back? And so it kind of just, Joe Witt was the initial connection, and kind of just, there's great dudes. Like all the guys on the team are just, easy to be around, good crew, competitive, fun. I enjoyed being around those guys. The part I like hitting at King Park, dude. It's a nice little pop up to right out of the yard.
Yeah, my numbers here say that you are career 12 for 27 with Lakeville, hitting 444 and 2 bombs. So King has its advantages.
Yeah, it's not bad. Those are probably routine flyouts in most parts. So
It sure makes Tori's job easier to hit when you're going to hit 444 for him, and not to mention what you can do on the mound.
Yeah, it helps. I think the other places probably play a little bit more regulation. Like I don't know if I have a jack in any other park in King. I did hit one in Florida, so I did hit one out in Florida, which was at a spring training complex. So that was I got into that ball a little bit, but
Pitchers are
haven't got one in
athletes.
any other park yet. Yeah, hey, you gotta give us a little credit here sometimes.
So what's next for you? Do you see yourself? I know you've had a little bit of a setback in terms of the arm department, but do you see yourself still playing with the Royals? Do you see yourself transitioning more into the Federal League? I know you've got a couple of young kids. Do you see yourself spending more time with them, coaching them, getting into some of that?
The goal this summer was before my arm started acting up, was to pitch one last season with the Royals and kind of shut. I talked to a couple of buddies on the team. We're kind of like phasing out a little bit and let the younger guys kind of jump in. So I told the manager, if my elbow doesn't bounce back like I'm hoping, which even now it just hurts to the touch, which is not ideal. But I told him, like, I don't want to take a guy's roster spot. I want, the kids in college to develop. Like my goal for the Royals is to never take innings or take ABs from any guys that are still developing or that are, in college, still have a career ahead of them. Mine's, behind me. So the initial goal was, finish with the Royals this summer and kind of transition full time to Lakeville next year. And yeah, kind of picking and choosing my spots for games to make it to. Just my wife, just got her job, where she's starting in August. And so just being home more is important too. So, and the kids are, they're growing up quick, and I don't want to miss anything at home either. So I'm hoping they want to come with me and watch some games, but if I can't get them to buy in with some candy and some popcorn, I don't know if I'll ever buy in. So we'll see. Trying to bribe them to come watch the old man play for a couple more games.
Yeah, that seems to work for many in our league. Obviously, they experience a lot of that tension of sharing family time and being at the ballpark. But when you're able to combine it sure makes it a lot easier to enjoy it both.
Absolutely. Oh, for sure.
And want to talk a little bit about you've had an opportunity to get into coaching a little bit. You had a couple of young men that you mentored, some BC guys that have really blossomed into the major leagues. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in assisting them and what that experience has been like for you.
Yeah. So when I was at BC initially, I got drafted in 2006, and so I was a junior. So I had one more year to finish my degree. I had to go back after I think it was like 8 or 9 years in the minor leagues, and going back was the initial like shell shock. Like back into school, I got to like read books and be studious and do all these things as a 30-year-old. So I have kids like, "Are you the teacher?" I'm like,
No.
I'm your classmate." And this is So I had to explain the initial situation. So Coach Gambino was out there, and he took me, under his wing. He's like, "I appreciate you. If you want to be a volunteer assistant or I don't know, not a grad, to be a volunteer assistant, and I would love to have you, kind of work with the pitchers and just be part of the team." And super grateful to, for him to just allow me that opportunity. So initially we had Mike King and Justin Dunn as freshmen, and initially you could tell like they're both special, just different ways. Like Dunn had more electric stuff. He was super athletic. Ball jumped out of his hand. Could tell he was, going to be something special. King was more of a sinker baller, but on the mound he was just a bulldog, like ultimate competitor. Just wanted the ball, wanted to get out. It's like I don't know how many. I'm not sure how many innings they got as freshmen. They both contributed as freshmen, but God, they just got better and better every year. And I think I watched the draft video and King got drafted in the first round, and they're all like a team that I think they had a regional maybe. And so seeing him get called early was awesome, and then seeing King get drafted in the 14th round, and I think he went. I think it was the Marlins drafted, and they got traded. He's bounced around a decent amount in minor leagues, but I mean, both of them have the success they've had to make it to the big leagues. It's a hard thing to do. You see a lot more people make it now, but God, being a 14th rounder, King had to dominate at every level. And Dunn, I mean, his stuff just speaks for itself. So watching those guys make it was like a proud dad moment. I still keep in touch. I text them occasionally, just seeing how they're doing and making sure they're all feeling good, and just like to check in. And when they're up at the Twin, like when they're playing the Twins, I'll shoot them a message like, "Hey, you got time for dinner?" Usually they got a lot going on. They're busy, but I think I went to a game with Torii and a couple of their Lobos like a year or two ago, and I had King sign me a ball, and I gave it to a little kid. And so he's still the same old guy, just super humble and great guy. So
Well, what a great time for the program to have two major leaguers, future major leaguers, on the staff
yeah,
at the same time. And
it's crazy. BC is not a baseball hotbed by any means. I mean, they're obviously hockey's their sport, but I think the guys that I know, like Tony Sanchez was a first rounder, Chris Shaw was a first rounder, Justin Dunn was a first rounder. Like they've had some first rounders kind of sprinkled, and Sal Frelick was a first rounder. So they've got talent there. They're not a Florida State or a Clemson or the powerhouses of the ACC, but I mean, there's guys that run through that program that are definitely overlooked initially in high school that kind of get there and work themselves to a first round role, which is fun to watch. So it's always good to see a BC kid make his debut. I'm always rooting for him.
go Eagles. Yeah. So as somebody who's played a number of years at a number of different levels, talk specifically about your experience with the Federal League. Are you seeing some good ball? Are you surprised by some of the ability, some of the hitters you faced?
So it's interesting because baseball progression of my life, like you start at a youth level and you kind of learn in the game, and high school you kind of polish, and college you got some significant talent, and then you work your way through the minors. It's everywhere in the minors you got guys who are significant, like have significant talent, and they're just maybe the consistency's not there, maybe the competitiveness is not there, and they kind of weed themselves out. And making it AAA, it's like there's guys there that are real. I mean, big leaguers. Everyone's a big leaguer in AAA. You just got to get an opportunity to be a big leaguer, and then you kind of start to kind of roll back down the backside of your career. So, like, I think there's guys in the Federal League that can swing it. They have great hand-eye coordination, that are super competitive. But what I see in a lot of the most is just the competitiveness. Like, it doesn't matter if everyone's working 9 to 5 or has a gig somewhere doing something, and to show up at the yard to still want to play, at past 35 years old, it takes a special mindset. So I think being in that mindset, a lot of guys in the Federal League are more competitive than guys that played with the minor leagues, which is fun to watch. And I'm facing guys that they're not giving away any at bats. They're not, they're battling every pitch I'm throwing. They're falling off or making it a tough at bat, or there's guys that throw that are when I was still in the 80s at 35 plus years old. So it's impressive how guys take care of themselves and really compete at high levels still. And we make fights say, oh, it's old man baseball, but I mean, I dare anybody that gives old man baseball crap to come over and take an AB or get on the mound and pitch, because they say it looks easy, but get out there and do it then if it's easy. So I think guys, there's guys on every team on the mound and at the plate that'll surprise you. Like, okay, like it's gonna be a battle today. Let's go. So it's fun to step up and compete against some of those teams. So.
Yeah, I love it. I can unequivocally say that you make our league better by being a part of it, and I am just grateful to have the opportunity to introduce you to the rest of the members of our league and have them get to know you a little bit, know your story, know some of your experiences, and just hear what a genuine and great player and person that you are, and just grateful for you being on the show and for being a part of the league.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody on the field this year, and hopefully have some good battles, and hopefully my elbow bounces back so I can get back on the mound and face some of you guys. So looking forward to it.
And yes, we absolutely wish you a ton of health and some limited success this season. So
appreciate
thanks
that.
for being on, Matt.
Absolutely.
That is all the time we have for this edition of Fed Up. Please tune in next week for another round of scores and highlights, as well as an update to our Fed Up power rankings. Feel free to let us know what you want to hear on upcoming episodes. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, thank you for listening. See you next week.